When your father is a brilliant, power-hungry warlord with 7 wives and enough political baggage to start a civil war at a family barbecue, your childhood is bound to be complicated. Enter then Alexander the Great, who before he was busy slicing the Gordian knot or redefining the size of empires, was mostly trying to survive the Greek version of succession. Despite the headlines, and by headlines we mean ancient gossip from Athenian writers, the tension between Alexander and his dad Philip II may have been overhyped. Most of our sources are from Athens, i.e. the people Philip regularly steamrolled, so naturally their accounts of the Macedonian royal court are a bit, well, stabby. Unfortunately, no Macedonian written sources have survived, so we're left with enemies' opinions and historians with a flair for the dramatic. That said, there were still plenty of sharp elbows at court, thanks in no small part to royal polygamy, which in ancient Macedonia was less about love and more about building diplomatic alliances like it was hearts of iron. Philip had 7 wives, and somehow only managed 2 confirmed sons. The mentally challenged Philip III, Aridaeus, and Alexander. There might have been a 3rd son named Coronis, but he may have died young, or may have just been a figment of ancient rumor. Either way, Coronis is the historical equivalent of a deleted character in a rejected DC comic. Without a formal rulebook for succession and a harem of politically strategic baby mamas, royal inheritance in Macedonia was basically Squid Game, minus the, well, subtlety. The best thought at the throne required 3 things. Being from the Argead dynasty, descendants of Perdiccas I, who founded Macedonia in the 7th century BC, having a mom from the Macedonian nobility, foreign mothers were viewed like expired warranties, and building enough alliances with the noble factions to avoid getting poisoned at lunch. Alexander, born to Olympias, who was from Epirus, so technically foreign, had a few disadvantages, but thankfully his competition was not great. His half-brother Aridaeus, incapacitated, possibly poisoned, possibly by Olympias. Because apparently in ancient Macedon, motherly love and chemical warfare weren't mutually exclusive. Despite reality show level family dynamics, Alexander got the royal upbringing package. His education was a mashup of grammar, rhetoric, geometry, and hands-on murder simulations, aka hunting and combat training. Oh, and his tutor? Just your average philosopher next door, Aristotle. Yes, that Aristotle. The one who invented formal logic and somehow got roped into being the life coach for a teenage megalomaniac. Imagine being 13 years old and your science teacher casually drops the concept of metaphysics between sword lessons. Now, Olympias has been painted by ancient sources, especially Plutarch, as the original evil queen. Plutarch, writing centuries later, gave us some grade A nightmare fuel, like the time Philip walked in and found Olympias snuggled up with a serpent in bed. No word on whether the snake was symbolic, metaphorical, or just really into cuddling. According to Roman historian Justin, Olympias didn't take rejection well and may have plotted Philip's murder from a comfy villa in Epirus. Whether or not she masterminded the assassination, ancient sources treat her like Lady Macbeth of the Aegean. But behind the snake-in-bed PR disaster, she was likely a savvy political operator. Less of a Disney villain, more of a ruthless strategist in a world where men were constantly stabbing each other over titles. Meanwhile, teenage Alexander was already building his military resume. At just 16, he was left in charge while his dad was off playing Empire, and promptly crushed a Thracian tribe and founded a city named, wait for it, Alexandropolis. Yes, even his first conquest was a branding opportunity. Later, the Battle of Coronea in 338 BC, he really made his mark. Philip took the right flank, Alexander leading the left. Went straight for the sacred band of Thebes, a crack unit made up of 150 pairs of male lovers whose love-forged loyalty made them elite. It did not, however, make them immortal. Most of them died in battle. At just 18 years old, Alexander didn't just win. He pulled off the PR stunt of the century. He returned the ashes of 1,000 Athenian dead and freed 2,000 prisoners. Because nothing says, sorry, I wrecked your army, like a cremated DoorDash delivery. After the victory, relations between Philip, Olympias, and Alexander seemed okay. Philip even built a monument, the Philippeion, celebrating his family and their domination of Greece. It featured statues of himself, his parents, Olympias, and Alexander, which in royal speak was like handing your kids to the kingdom. But then Philip went into a full midlife crisis and married Cleopatra a Macedonian, which was a big deal since none of his previous wives were locals. And no, it was not that Cleopatra. He'd gone from exotic imports to a hometown girl. Oh, and he was, quote, violently in love, according to Greek writer Athenaeus, because apparently imperial ambitions seem to include lusting after your teenage niece-in-law. This set off a royal chain reaction. At the wedding banquet, Cleopatra's uncle, Attalus, always the tactful one, raised a toast hoping the couple would produce, quote, a legitimate heir. How subtle. Alexander, understandably pissed, threw a cup at Attalus. Then Philip, in peak drunken dad mode, lunged at his son, tripped, and face planted. Alexander, never one to waste a punchline, quipped, quote, here's a man who wants to cross from Europe to Asia, and he can't even cross from couch to couch. Shame. Burn. Mic drop. The fallout was nuclear. Alexander and Olympias stormed off into exile, first to Epirus, then to Langarius, king of the Agrianians. Some suggest Philip used the opportunity to quietly make Alexander the steward of Greek affairs while he planned his Persian campaign. Others think Alexander just hated being benched. To Alexander, that probably felt like being told, you're in charge of the petting zoo while I go lion hunting. Then came the Pixodaris affair, basically a royal engagement gone nuclear. Philip tried to marry Aridaeus, Alexander's half-brother, to the daughter of a Persian satrap, Pixodaris. Alexander panicked that this would make Aridaeus the heir, so he offered himself as the groom instead. It was a bold move that totally wrecked the alliance and enraged Philip, because I'm guessing matchmaking was the king's job, not the prince's extracurricular hobby. Some scholars even suggest Philip had considered marrying his wife Cleopatra to Alexander. Yes, his own wife. Because ancient Macedonian customs like to make it weirder. That marriage would have signaled Philip's intention to pass the kingdom to Alexander, but clearly, things didn't go that far, because then came the murder. Philip was assassinated at the wedding of his daughter Cleopatra, yes, another Cleopatra, to her uncle Alexander of Epirus. The killer was Pausanias, one of the king's own bodyguards. His motive? Revenge. Supposedly, Pausanias was once Philip's lover, then dumped for a younger model. After his replacement died by suicide, Attalus, remember him, had Pausanias gang servants in revenge. Pausanias complained to Philip, who shrugged it off. Not exactly protect your people material. So Pausanias did what any slighted, traumatized royal guard might do. He stabbed the king. But the question remains, did he act alone? Plutarch and Justin suspected Olympias. After all, with Philip dead, she and Alexander were suddenly back in the game. Arrian blamed the Persians, who weren't exactly thrilled about Philip's planned invasion. Others have blamed Athenian statesman Demosthenes, jealous nobles, or even Philip's own general Antipater. The ancient world where everyone's a suspect and no one has an alibi. Whoever did it, the outcome was swift. Alexander was declared king by the army and did what any new monarch would do. He cleaned house. Ruthlessly. He eliminated potential rivals, including Philip's nephew, Amyntas IV, and the ever-annoying Attalus. Olympias, never one to half-ass revenge, allegedly had Cleopatra's daughter murdered, then forced Cleopatra herself to hang herself in front of the child's corpse. That's not just a coup, that's performance art. With every rival dead and every ally trembling, Alexander ascended to the throne. And while it's tempting to paint him as the golden boy following in his father's footsteps, don't forget, those footsteps were paved with betrayal, assassination, and a long line of family feuds. Alexander may have become great, but he got there the old-fashioned way, over a trail of dead bodies, broken wine goblets, and the bones of an ancient wedding drama.